All right, Mountain Lions, I just want to follow up on yesterday's big question for your reading response. I asked you about what the otter's character traits were. Some great responses were that the otters are really curious and really playful, right? They want to know all about the robot. They're playing with the different pieces. So I would use those two words to describe them. In addition, I asked you what simple tasks would you have the robot complete for you if you had a robot of your own. So things like doing the dishes. I know that that's not something I really love to do. I would totally have Roz wash the dishes for me. And then maybe scrub the toilet. Not my favorite thing to do. All right, we're going to move on and read chapter 5 and beyond today. So chapter 5 is called The Robot Gravesite. Those otters were now hiding behind a rock, their round heads nervously poked up, and they watched as a sparkling monster emerged from a crate. The monster slowly turned her head as she scanned the coastline. Her head turned and turned all the way around. It didn't stop turning until she was looking right at the otters. "Hello, otters, my name is Roz." The robot's voice was simply too much for the skittish creatures. The biggest otters squeaked, and the whole gang suddenly took off. They galloped back across the robot gravesite, flopped into the ocean, and raced through the waves just as fast as they could. Roz watched the otters go, but her eyes lingered on the sparkling objects that littered the shore. The objects looked strangely familiar. The robot swung her left leg forward, then her right, and just like that, she was taking her very first steps. She stomped away from her crate and over the rocks and through the gravesite until she was standing above a broken robot body. She leaned in and noticed the word Rozum lightly etched on the torso. She noticed the same word on all the torsos, including her own. Your torso is your middle kind of part of your body. So just so that you, from like probably your shoulders to your hips, we'll say is your torso. Roz continued exploring the gravesite until a playful little ocean wave crashed over the rocks. She automatically stepped away from it. Then a bigger wave sloshed toward her, and she stepped away again. Then a gigantic wave crashed over the rocks and engulfed the entire gravesite, so took it all over. A moment later, the wave was gone, and Roz lay there dripping and dented and surrounded by dead robots. Roz could feel her survival instincts, the part of her computer brain that made her want to avoid danger and take care of herself so she could continue to function properly. Her instincts were urging her to move away from the ocean. She carefully got to her feet and saw that high above the shore, the land was bursting with trees and grass and flowers. It looked lush and safe up there. However, she had one problem. To get up there, she would have to climb the sea cliffs. I'm going to pause for 1 second, and I want you to pause as well. I want you to predict, how might she get up the sea cliffs? So sea cliffs are really high rocks, and remember, she's a robot. She's kind of a rigid body that doesn't move that well. How might Roz get up the sea cliffs? All right, maybe your turn talk partner was like your adult at home or a sibling, so hopefully you shared it with them. You can whisper voice it into your hand, throw it at the screen, and I'll hear you. Chapter 6, The Climb. Crack, thunk, clang. Roz was having a little trouble climbing the cliffs. She had a new dent on her rear and a long scrape down her side, and she was just about to get another ding when a crab scuttled out from under a piece of driftwood. The crab looked up and immediately showed off its giant claws. Everyone was afraid of its claws, but not the robot. She looked down and introduced herself. "Hello, crab, my name is Roz." After a brief standoff, the crab cautiously backed away, and that's when Roz noticed how easily he moved over the rocks. With his wide stance and his grippy feet, the crab could crawl up and down any rock face. So Roz decided to try out his climbing technique. She spread her arms wide and clamped each of her hands onto the cliffside. She jammed one foot into a crack and lifted her other foot onto a narrow ledge, and just like that, she was climbing. Roz awkwardly moved at first. A chunk of rock crumbled in her hand, and she had trouble finding footholds, but as she climbed higher and higher, she started to get the hang of it. Seagulls squawked from their cliff nests and soared away when the robot came too close, but Roz paid them no mind. She was focused only on getting to the top. Up and up she went, methodically climbing past nests and ledges and tiny trees rooted in the cracks. But before long, our robot felt the soft soil of the island beneath her feet. Right, just like the crab down here. So hard to point backwards. There's Roz. Okay, last one for today. Chapter 7, The Wilderness. Animal sounds filled the forest, chirps and wing beats and rustlings in the underbush. And then from the sea cliffs there came new sounds. Heavy crunching footsteps. The forest animals fell silent, and from their hiding places they watched as a sparkling monster stopped past. But the forest was not a comfortable place for Roz. Jagged rocks and fallen trees and tangled underbush made it difficult for her to walk. She stumbled along, struggling to keep her balance, until her foot snagged and she toppled over a piece of timber, just like a piece of a tree. It wasn't a bad fall. No dings, no dents, just dirt. But Roz was programmed to keep herself in good working order, and once she was back on her feet, she immediately began cleaning herself off. Her hands darted around her body, quickly brushing and picking off every speck of dirt. So my question to you for your reading response number 3 is, in Chapter 7, The Wilderness, how do we know that Roz isn't built for the wild? What is it that happened in that chapter that shows us Roz wasn't built to live in the wild? All right, I'm signing off. I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.